Welcome to another episode of Tack Talks Futbol. We have been out a little bit here with coaching and family things going on, so we're finally back at it with new topics and new discussions. And over to you, Dad.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Good to see you, boys. Good to hear you've had some success in coaching over the last couple of weekends. A little bit of struggles, but that's all right. Hey, just to give a quick recap where we were and where we are today. Just going back over our podcast events or episodes that we've done. We talked a little bit about our player pools at the youth level, all the way up through the national level. We've talked the club friendlies between Belgium and Portugal, and we had quite a bit of debate about that. And then, of course, we talked about the roster for the U.S. national team as we approach this World Cup. Today, we're going to go and migrate a little bit toward talking culture within clubs. Then we're going to talk about the demands on players from the youth level through all of the showcases and leagues and club matches that they're playing all the way up through the national team and international duty. And then we're going to talk World Cup ticket prices and things that are happening around World Cup as we approach literally almost 40 days, I think, before the event starts. So here we go. I'll turn it over to Jeremy and we'll talk a little bit about culture.
Yeah, so culture is everything. I just watched a video the other day, and I believe it was an Irish coach. Um, said a couple cuss words involved, but just talked about how a good player with a bad attitude or a bad work rate, the same as a bad player with a good work rate, can cause disruptions in an environment of a team. It's very important to build a culture and an environment that brings success to all different types of players, especially one that you've had for many years. So when you're bringing in new players year after year, you have to pick personalities that mend with the rest of the group, or it could take one or two that could destroy that culture or environment. Egos involved. There's a lot of options out there that people get enticed by, that can honestly bring a team down, and that's where I think that results can start lingering on us a little bit. When everybody's in a happy environment, to whether that's player to player interaction, player to coach, coach to player interactions, those matter a lot to build a team that can be successful. It's not just about the technical ability, it's about the attitude, it's about, as we said, the culture of the team. You know, you have to build a style together, you have to build that relationship with each other. And again, like I said, it can take one or two players that can break that down.
So, Jeremy, let me ask Jason a question. Uh, do you have some thoughts on how you would coach a player that is either not that good a player that's got a great work rate and attitude versus a great player that's got a crappy attitude and less than appropriate work rate? How do you handle that? And then we'll ask Jeremy the same question.
Well, so it's a tough situation no matter any way you look at it, because obviously on your top teams, you're going to want the best players. Unfortunately, some prevail as a top team player and some are more complacent as a top team player. So you'll find players in the beginning that are working really, really hard and are your best players, but might not within 2 years become your best players and the hardest working kids. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic when you get to especially the high school ages, because players' minds are changing. They've got all things going through their heads, girls, school, arguing with their parents, whatever it might be. But attitudes change a little bit. And what that does, and I think this is kind of, I'm not trying to put words in Jeremy's mouth, but I think what he's getting at is that you want players on your team that are good quality players. But you also want those players to almost be the standard of what your team is going to be. So if you've got a good player that works part of the time and you need them to work full time because your team without that player isn't at its full potential. And so you have to look at players like that. What is their potential in the long run? Are they going to sustain the work rate? Are they that interested into soccer that they are going to continue to help you build a culture with your team? Or are these players that are just doing it to be around their friends? Um, are they just doing it just because this is what they've done their entire life? And so that's what makes the teams difficult when you're picking, especially at tryouts, especially with new players coming in that you don't know a lot about. Sometimes it's not always about the hard working and the best player on the team. It's about who is representing themselves very, very well on your team, who is representing the club well, who are doing the things, or I should say, let me take that back, who are interested in the game, who are interested in building relationship with other players and the coaches, because that right there alone makes a player more interesting to a coach, is if they can build a relationship. And I think overall players are going to get better as they develop through the high school reigns. Um, but of course, there's going to be a point in time where, I mean, development has probably hit its cap for some of these players. So the culture is really going to be based on, as a coach, what you want out of your players. What kind of culture do you want? Do you want a culture full of players that are eh, but have great attitudes and they work pretty hard? Or do you want the players that are typically beyond those type of players that have the work rate? And so it's just whatever your tactic as a coach is going to be, that is what you have to choose.
I would say you don't put up with it. So, but first I want to turn it over to
Well,
Jeremy and
so
get
you
your
kind of
thoughts.
have to.
Yeah, just stand by. Let's talk about this
Well,
a
no, I
little
get
bit.
it because I don't want to leave that topic
We're not
because
going to leave that topic. So, Jeremy, give me
go.
your
All right,
thoughts
go
on
for it.
as a coach. How would you handle that?
Well, I mean, there's obviously a fine balance to it, and I think I know where Jason's going with it, but you're gonna have limitations to the players that you get sometimes. You might see something very, very special about this player in the first 2 weeks you have them, and then you see that attitude start coming out when they get a little more comfortable. So I think personally, not just from a technical standpoint, oh, that guy, he finishes every chance he gets. Um, but the encouragement aspect of it, and I'm not just talking like, "Hey, well done for everything that you do." I'm talking the encouragement of being able to look at one of your teammates in the face and say, "Hey, it's got to be better today." And that player's interaction back is either going at that guy and saying, "Hey, piss off. I don't need to hear that," or "You're right, it needs to be better." And that's the attitude that I really want to look for is, can that guy take that constructive criticism? Like, "I've seen you be better." And he's like, "You're right. Let's go. Let's start going." So I think that, like, tryouts are coming up, it's a special topic for everybody, but you can see those personality traits in players, and you can also see personality traits that are negatively going to impact some of these players. If they're having a shot and it was a horrible shot and they put their head down and you just see their game change, is that a player that you want? Or is that a player that you take a chance on? I don't know. It's the player that might have had 4 bad shots in a row, but his attitude never changed. He was still encouraging, he was still active, he was still talking, and didn't let it bother him. So as a coach, how do you handle that? I think that you have to start recognizing those personality traits and those patterns in players from a very early stage.
So it's really interesting what you guys have said because I think again part of the culture has to be defined by the individual players that make up that team. And are they going to hold themselves responsible for what they do on the practice pitch and on the game pitch? And, I'm right behind me, the Chrome Parts jersey that I wore for a long time. And I'll talk about two teams here that I really, really want to focus on. I can go back to youth level coaching and the high school coaching, but I'm going to focus on two teams. Chrome Parts is going to be the first one. And I bring up Chrome Parts. It's just a club team under U.S. men's amateur soccer. We played together, a group of us, around 600 games and won most of those games. Everything from tournaments to exhibition matches. And the players that we pulled together was a combination of younger guys, seasoned guys, former professionals, some current professionals. But the one demand that we had when you came to that team was when you step on that pitch, whether it be practice or match, you will fight to win that game and give everything you can, no matter what. If you're having a bad day, you're having bad touches, then turn into a role player. And people understood that responsibility. Now I'm going to transition to the team that I coached for Ohio South Olympic Development, Jason's group. When I was looking for players, when Scott Molfener and I first started that, and we pulled those players together, we were looking for attitudes. We were looking for players that could play, because we weren't looking for role players, because that's not what the Olympic Development Program was all about. We were looking for groups of players that had attitudes. And then as we started to move them around to see where they best fit and how they best contributed to the team, those are the players that we went with. And it made a huge difference. As I said in a previous podcast, that team could play small ticky-tack ball. They could play long ball, possession if they needed to, direct, indirect. They'd go down a goal. It didn't matter to them. They knew that you couldn't stop us from scoring. And those are the things that contributed the most. And so I think from hearing you, Jeremy, and Jason talk about some of the players that you see out there, some of these players don't take responsibility for their actions. And I think it's a huge part of today's overall culture. I see it at the national level. I see it at club level. You know, I think I watched a game yesterday, a Champions League game, and a really good player shot the ball 60 yards over the goal. And yeah, he gave a little bit of a smile, like, boy, I really messed that one. No, you should have really been taking responsibility for that. It was a quality chance that you should have finished, and you shot it 60 yards over the goal. And it's just that players don't hold themselves responsible anymore. I think they're letting themselves get away with it. Oh, well, I had a bad day and I had a bad touch, and then you confront me about that. It's either just going to shut me down even more, turn me off from the team. Hey, man, in my opinion, you step on that practice pitch or that match pitch, you are my brother in arms in every way. And if I am having a bad day, then I'm going to turn into a role player and give the ball to the players that are having a good day. And I don't think we see enough of that at any of our levels right now. Over to you guys.
Yeah, you're hitting a point there for sure. But I think that if we're referencing more of the youth, especially not in the MLS Next or the ECNL, like the top divisions or leagues, I don't know how much you can expect that. Just because this isn't a job for them. And I don't know that we want to make it a job for them, because I think that is where it becomes unfun. And I think that's where a lot of players decide not to play college soccer. I think a lot of players decide to play other sports or do other sports especially in high school. They don't want this to be a job. I think realistically, 15 or 16 years old, your parents are probably saying, just go out and enjoy yourself. You're not going to play professional soccer.
And
Just
there's
go
nothing
enjoy
wrong. And
yourself.
there's nothing wrong with that. But when
Uh,
you go out there, you are
but
fighting a battle for your teammates.
I know,
And
but
if you're not going to do that, then I don't want you on the team.
then unfortunately, you're probably not going to ever have a team.
That's
That
crazy.
requirement is more if you're playing an MLS Next within the academies, because you can get demoted. You just won't be kept on the academy team. And so you're going to see yourself finding a little bit more dedication, a little bit more commitment, a little bit more hard on themselves if they do make mistakes, because they're worried about not staying on the team. For these teams that we coach, and even some of the bigger clubs that are not MLS Next or top ECNL, I think that they're finding themselves in the same situations. It's not that they're not dedicated. It's just that they find themselves in a position to where they're not the best of the best. I mean, if they were the best of the best, they would be playing MLS Next or ECNL at the youth level. Youth level.
Yeah, but Jason,
Eh,
that shouldn't affect the culture of the team.
but it's not affecting the culture of the team. That's just what it is.
Right. But I'm okay with a team that if a team goes out there and say they're losing, I'll take one of the youth teams that I watched years and years ago. We had a group of parents that were wanting this team to go back down to their own age group because they were losing most of their games. Most of their games, though, were competitive. 2-1 losses, 2-2 ties, 3-1 losses. They were in every game, and yet my communication with them was, understand, as they get older, they're going to migrate into a better culture overall as a team than if you go down into your own age group and you're beating teams 7, 8, 9 goals, nothing. It's not going to be any fun. And what ultimately happened? Parents chose, dropped the kids back to their youth level. And almost every one of those parents came back to me and said, "You were right. It was the worst decision we ever made." Because it literally destroyed the culture. They weren't out there cheering, going, "Oh my God, we're right there. Oh my God, we just missed that goal that could have tied the game." And that's the culture that you want. And if these kids that you're coaching right now don't step onto that pitch and say, "This is fun. I'm here to play soccer today with my teammates," or "I'm here to play this match and I'm going to do everything I can to win," I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
So
so that's what I was getting ready to say to Jason, and I'm not trying to call you out by any means, but, like, what's the point then? Like, if there's no pride in the team you're on, you might as well not play.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
And so
maybe
so I
that's the case.
argue that, like, for me as a coach, I want to instill into these players that it does mean something because you can still be successful in some of these teams. It doesn't have to be MLS Next. It doesn't have to be ECNL. There's still gonna be players that go and be very successful players in college. All of
Sure.
them? Of course not. Is there a bigger chance on MLS Next? Are you gonna get more exposure? Of course. But I think pride and dedication for whatever team you're on goes a long way with any coach, and I
Yeah.
can assure you that,
Sure.
like, for a coach like me specifically, if you are showing that pride and dedication in this club and this team, I will do whatever I can to get you to that next level. And I'm not asking players and parents and all that to be loyal. I guess that I try to instill the culture of, like, if you are on this team, no matter if it's just this year or for the next 6 years, you're going to show everything for this group,
right.
Yeah.
or get out
Yeah.
of our way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let me ask. I'm gonna ask both of you this question because I think that I'm experiencing this a little bit. I think I cut myself. Um, so if at 16 you're not MLS Next or you're not in ECNO, and you decide that maybe college soccer is not for you, but you still want to play soccer, and you still want to play soccer at a high level because that's where your friends are and you're good enough to play at this high level. What is the motivation? Yeah, I really cut myself. Um, what is the motivation to continue to perform at the highest level if you know the future of soccer is going to end in the next 2 years?
But those are your teammates.
But
Where
I
does
get it.
teammate come in? Then all you care about is yourself? I don't want that player on my team.
No, they care about having fun is what I'm saying.
Well, but it is fun. Winning's a heck of a lot more fun than losing.
I get it, but
So why wouldn't you want to perform at your best?
If we're talking about culture, it's a completely different culture now. It is not. It's not like that. It's not like that, and I'm telling you right now, it's not like that with our national team either.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. We'll have that
Our
discussion.
culture is, and it should be at the national team level because that is their job. But our
Spoiled.
culture right now is when you have a club, and I'm going to go as far as saying that the minimum for a club, more than likely right now, that is playing in the highest leagues and the highest showcases. This is youth again. We're talking about. I'm going to say a minimum of $2,500 a year is what parents are paying.
Sure.
That's not including uniforms. That's not including travel. That's not including hotels. That's not including any of that stuff. So upwards of, if you take your family, we're just going to say one trip to Texas. If your whole family goes, a family of 4, you're probably looking at close to $10,000 for one trip. How many people that have $10,000 to spend on their child for every showcase, and if you do 3 or 4 showcases,
Yeah, I
are
agree.
really requiring their kids to give their full effort all the time?
Yeah.
Well, I know as a parent that if I'm going to be paying that much money, you better be giving me
what is
everything
the
you have.
but
But I
what is
do
the
have to agree with
consequence
you.
if not?
Right, right.
Right.
Because
So
if you don't have the aspirations to play in college anyways, then why
But
go through that?
but how do you, and this is a pretty good topic here. That's why I want to stay on it. Who is the one that measures how much effort is given or how much effort is enough to continue to play soccer?
In my case, me, because I'm taking my own time away from my kids and my family to come coach you.
No, I'm talking
So
about the
if
player. I'm talking about players.
as a player, I think
Who
you
is
have
going to measure?
well, yeah, I don't know if you can measure that, but
That's
I
my
think
point.
that you need to have the respect to understand that some players do have that aspiration. So if you're going to be out here, you do have coaches that care, but also are taking their own time to help develop, help be a part of this. So you got to have that respect. And if you don't respect that, that's where we talk about culture and
right,
environment.
and it's
I
holding
don't
them.
want that player on my team.
But that's what I'm
It's holding
saying. So
them
like,
responsible and accountable for their actions when they're on the pitch in training and when they're on the pitch in a game.
but
In
what
a
I'm
match.
telling you is there's not enough.
No,
There's not
100%.
enough.
You don't see
So
it enough.
if you
Yeah.
want the best team, you are not going to get the most dedicated. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I will take the team that I'm coaching this year. If at the beginning of the season I said, if you are not playing college soccer, if you are not going to be at every training session minus like emergencies and stuff like that, and you're not going to be available for every game this season, I would have had 10 players that came to tryouts. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, no, I see your dilemma, and
And it's
that's
not
my
just
point.
me, it's other teams, it's
That-
other
that-
clubs.
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
Then we get back to a few previous discussion that we had about taking Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, and it's so saturated with clubs and so many saturated leagues, teams out there. They're as diverse as you can think of. With a player pool that's spread across multiple clubs, that really needs to be reduced down because you're wasting your time. I would never want to be in a coaching situation like that. If you're not going to come to be part of this team and do everything you can to win and work hard for that team, then I don't want you.
But the
And
thing is, and the point that Jason makes is that, in my opinion, let's say you have 40 guys in a pool of players.
yeah,
I bet 39 of them raise their hand and say they'll be at everything, but only 10 actually do.
right.
So now you're stuck in the situation where these 10 guys plus these coaches that dedicate their time are getting the shit into the stick because players, quite frankly, aren't motivated. There's a lot of distractions, and that's a great point, Jason. I don't know
Yeah.
how you change that. You can instill the best culture and environment from U8 to all the way up to U17, and then U19, it could go right down the tube.
Well, I
So
think it's a
just
conversation that you have as a group with your players and your parents. And
Unfortunately, what Jason's point, it doesn't make a difference.
I get that,
so
but
yeah,
it
Dad.
really
So
needs
take
to
this
be
example.
a hardcore discussion, and just recognize that, look, we know not all of you may want to be fully committed to this, but you need to understand what you're doing to the other players that do want to be. And so we're asking you to be part of our culture, to be part of our team, to be part of the heart of this team. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be here.
So here's an example, Dad. So to Jeremy's point, I had at tryouts, I picked up 40 kids. So I started off 40 at the season. Now I did have some injuries, probably 5 or 6 injuries, but those injuries are back now. So I'm probably at a solid, I would say probably at a solid 33 guys, all healthy, all available to play. Um, I had 20 guys at training tonight, and I have 15 guys available for the game tomorrow
Wow.
out of 35 guys, 33 guys. Now,
So,
I can't
so in
fault
my opinion, there's nothing that you can do about it. I think that tells really who they are. As a parent, I could never see like, and I get it; they're becoming young adults, but as a parent, I could just never be able to allow my kid to do that. And I don't mean to talk bad about anybody, but if you are going to sign on to be dedicated to a team, and I witness that you're missing almost everything, I would be ashamed, quite frankly, and I think it is completely disrespectful to the guys that do show up day in and day out. And I
Absolutely.
and I don't know if I could look at those players the same way once my career's done. I'll be like, "You ruined my final year." That's just from my personal opinion. I think it's just wrong.
well, and that is, and you're right. And I can tell you that, it sounds probably bad how I'm saying this, and it does look bad. But I could tell you the group that I have, they're a wonderful group. I mean, there's not a kid on the team that I would trade for the world. I would trade some of their mentalities, but the kids have been nothing but respectful this year. They have been awesome. However, this is where I kind of pressed the issue, or the topic, sorry, about Dad, your comment about the culture and how other teams that you've coached, it was um more like a job. It was dedication. It's a war. So I bring back my point of, if you know you're not going to play college soccer, and you and the ones that are not playing college soccer take up most of the positions. And I'm just talking specifically on my team. How how do you fault them for still wanting to play the game and still be around their friends? But at the same time, their parents are probably saying, "Well, you're not even playing college, so you need to go get a job."
Right. I get it. But the problem with that is once again, those people and those players are impacting the other players.
100%.
Right. And they're not taking responsibility for that. And so what do? They get away with it. And then when they get to a
100%.
job, the same thing. Well, when you put together a high performing team, when you're a senior program manager and you've got 2 or 3 people that are sitting on the side as D players, well, that's fine. You can get them to do just the basic tasks that you need them to do, but they're never going to be part of the high performing team. And I don't want them. And so I'd sit them.
Well, and
I'd sit them.
we certainly have. I'm not quite as a old mind as what my father is there, but I still have some of the mindset of the older minds that you just work your tail off, um, and whether you're technically skilled or um, the greatest player on the team, you're going to perform fairly well just by working hard. Um, Now that doesn't always work, but that's what you hope for, that it's going to work no matter what. It's a different culture now. It is just, it is not the mindset of players. Players, I think, are more worried sometimes about hurting other players. Unlike what we used to play, we just run through players, and if they got hurt, we didn't want them to get hurt, but it is what it is. On a clearance, you're going to clear the ball and it hits somebody in the face. Well, then that's just tough shit.
Yeah.
You should have got out of the way. That's not how it is now. I think sometimes players are, and this is kind of a off the wall topic, but sometimes players, when they clear the ball, I feel that they almost shank it because they don't want to hit somebody in the face. And that is the difference in mindsets amongst the game. Like what it has turned into is just that. It's a game. And that is not a bad thing, but I don't think that we can expect to compete with European countries in the World Cup, because that's not our mindset. Our mindset is not live or die by soccer. Our mindset is we're going to go out there, compete, and we're going to perform to the best of our abilities and hope for the best.
Yeah.
France,
yeah.
Brazil, they're going in there and saying, this is my life. You are not going to beat me. We are going to win this World Cup because that is everything to us.
Mm-hmm.
And everything to the people of the country in general.
And everything to the people of the country.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think there's a unique aspect of every soccer player, and every soccer player needs to understand that the moment that you step on that pitch, whether it be in training or in a match, could be your last playing.
100%. And I repeat that. I repeat that all the time to my players.
And so you can either go out there and play half of what you're capable of playing because you don't want to get injured and you don't care about your team winning or losing the match. You just want to be there amongst your friends. Those are not the players that I want in this on any team that I coach.
And
Well,
I get you.
That's the thing that I kind of talked with Jason about, is that you invested. So Jason, you practically said what, $10,000 or more per season, and maybe it's not on average
No, I'm
across
talking
the
about
board.
$10,000 per trip.
Okay, yeah, so it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But let's say that you started your soccer career at 5 years old. You play for 12 or 13 years straight, and then you're like, "Oh, my final year, I'm just not gonna give that much." That's what doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Is that how can you invest so much time and energy into this until your final year of club soccer?
Yep. It
It
makes
doesn't
zero
make sense.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's all because it's selfishness.
Yep.
They don't care. They're gonna do what they wanna do because they're big boys now. They don't care what the
But
repercussions are.
and I shouldn't say this, but we had training tonight, obviously, and I was told by a fellow player that there was just some players that didn't feel like driving to the game tomorrow. That's why I have 15 players. So, I know who those players are, and they're very, very good kids. Very, very good kids. But that is the disappointment that I think sometimes players and coaches go through, because it's just a different thought process now. I don't want to cross topics here, but talking Pulisic, what his AC Milan coach said to him, he just mentally is very, very sensitive.
Mhm.
And that is how our kids are. They're very, very sensitive to things. You have to talk to them right. You have to treat them right. You have to correlate with them in a certain way. I'm not saying you have to coddle them and stuff like that, but you have to approach them in a manner that really is not going to hurt their feelings, is what it comes down to.
And you still
And
might not get anything from them.
and you still might not. And so, Dad, our thought process, yours a little bit more, um, just because you're a little older or a lot older at this point, is a little different. It's just not the same as when we played.
So my point to you guys as coaches and the amount of time that you are investing in these players, then I would be taking every one of your top 5 and doing everything you can to get them on an MLS Next team outside of this club.
And
That's
that's why
exactly what I would do. Every time you get
Yeah.
those 5 top players, you guys, this is what I want to do for you.
Yep.
And literally, if I can get you there 3 weeks into the season, 2 months into the season, I'm going to get you there.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And so,
Yeah.
because I don't care about these other kids. I'm here to coach them a little bit, train them a little bit, keep them organized, but I'm not going to dedicate a darn minute to them because they don't have what it takes mentally, physically, or technically to do that. Do
No,
what's necessary.
and you're exactly right, because and when you brought up the topic of too many clubs, so that's the problem is everybody's so spread out and has 5 to 10 players here, 5 to 10 players there that all are very, very
Yep.
good players, but they're mixed with all these other players that are kind of the undedicated, if you will. And so you have to look at that. Now, you could probably send like 2 or 3 and be okay, but like if you have truly 6 players that are studs and you're like, I need to get these guys onto an MLS Next team
Somewhere
or
else.
ECNL
Yep.
team,
Somewhere else.
your team is pretty much gone. And so that's not going to be
But
possible.
but that's where you guys ought to be as top US club soccer coaches. That's what you ought to be doing, and maybe that's the culture shift that we need. Because even if you got rid of your top 6 players on either side, or top 4, say, and you're shoving them towards MLS Next, or to a USL team, and then just play your club games. Somebody either steps up or doesn't. You win, you lose. What's it matter?
So yes, that is the next step to I think benefit US youth soccer in this country is quit holding on to players that should be playing at a higher level.
Yep.
And
You got
I'm guilty of that because I want my teams to win. I want my teams to be the best teams, obviously. But I think what you're finding is that just that you're having a handful of kids that are wanting to go to the next level. I have one right now that I would do anything for. I mean, I'd literally do anything for him because he is very, very communicative to me. I've had him since he was 13 years old, and he's turned into just a stellar player.
Then do what's right. Call up MLS Next. Call up MLS Next and say, I got a player for you. You need to look at him.
But there's also some hindrances, travel and training and dedication that might not be capable by certain players. And so that discussion needs to be had for sure. And I think that is probably the next step in I'm going to say not building US soccer. I'm going to say start to rebuild US soccer
Reinventing
because
it.
I don't think that we are building in the right direction. And I don't know that we've ever been built. I think everything is money. I think everything is who is going to be in charge to make the best choices in their opinion for what direction US soccer goes through. And it has nothing to do with the kids. If you're in the pool, you're going to stay in the pool for the most part. They're not going to search for any other players. They might try to go find 1 or 2, but what they have is what they want to stick with.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, as we've discussed before, There is no way that our pool of U.S. soccer players, talking at national team, U23s, everything, our U23s, our younger national teams are okay, but that national team is the best players in the world for the United States or country or however you want to look at it.
Well,
There's other players out there.
there are, and I think Pochettino has found a pool of players that in some instances have come together really well, especially those coming out of MLS. Because you got to go back to the Uruguay game and look at the joy that those guys had on their faces, and look how many MLS players were on that pitch.
But again, I guess that goes back to the culture. That's the pride.
But that's what I'm
A
saying.
lot of them
That's
play
those
in the
guys.
same league. They
You
have
look at
the
the
pride of
Berhalter and the Luna, Zendejas. I mean, those guys really wanted to play, and they showcased, and they had just a brilliant game. And that's the culture that you want. And now you look at Weston McKennie and how well he's playing. You know, people have doubted that kid since he's 13 years old. I was reading a story about him today. They doubted him since he was 13, but his attitude is spot on.
Yeah, but I agree, Dad. But he didn't do, and pardon my French, everyone, he didn't do shit in the friendlies.
No, he
can have the
did.
best attitude. He was nothing. He did nothing.
He didn't. But right now, he is more focused on Juve than he is on the national team. And that's a problem.
That's a problem, right?
I don't disagree. That is a problem. But I think as this starts to come together, as Juve probably locks up Champions League position, he gets settled in and he starts making that transition to the national team, I think you're going to see a different player. I really do. I just think he's going to show exquisitely well at the World Cup.
So
Because
this is
I think
probably a
he's
good
got the right
segue.
I think he's got the right attitude. He didn't in the friendlies. I agree, but I believe
He's got to
when he
remove that little
World
star from his face in order to.
Cup- No, you don't.
Maybe this is a perfect segue into the next topic, but we have players that perform reasonably well at the club level. I think Balogun has been an anomaly for the most part in a top tier league, that is. But I don't see anything different from this group than I did in 2002. I still see guys kicking the ball out of bounds. I still see players have missed touches. I still see us not finishing very well.
2002?
2002, which was our probably most successful year as a national team in the World Cup. And I'm getting to that point. What I'm saying is, from a technical standpoint, and I think the players are probably more technical overall, but I'm still seeing the same things. And the difference that I see in the players now versus then was heart, fight, and work rate. And when I see this now in these players, that if we're not super technical and we don't work as hard as the other team, or we don't have more heart than the other team, we get our asses kicked by Belgium. We get our asses kicked by Portugal. In 2002, did we compete with Portugal? Or was it 2006? I can't remember. But
Yeah,
I
it was a
see
great
more
game,
fight in
yeah.
those guys, no matter when it was, when we tied them 2-2 or whatever. I would argue that their team was probably better then than it is now. Just like our team is probably not as good as it is now, but the fight and the heart and just, I think just the overall, I'm going to say our key word today, culture of that team would beat the living hell out of this current team.
Yeah. However, I just don't want you guys to discount what I think's coming. I do believe that players are, because the demands on them, one of the other topics that we were talking about, discussing today, the demands on these players is really leading to some serious injuries. I mean, I'm heartbroken for Patrick Ajime. You know what? I mean,
it's a big boy with long legs. I
I
mean, he's
know,
going
but
to
he
get.
tears his Achilles,
There's a lot
and
of
I'm
people
just
that got hurt.
heartbroken for him because I believe he was truly working to make that national team. He was doing everything that he could.
Yeah, for sure.
And yet you look at Christian Pulisic now, they're playing him in kind of a number 9 role, which is not his most suited position, but he's doing it. But he's not getting banged around like a Balogun is getting banged around. He's avoiding those hits because I don't think he wants to miss the World Cup. And so it's affecting his play, unfortunately.
And Pulisic isn't the type of
Tyler
player
Adams,
that you're going to build your team around. I hate to say it.
right? Tyler Adams, he's playing well, but he's doing a lot less than you would normally see him play in an early EPL season.
Is he back? I haven't seen him.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
he back?
He's back,
Yeah.
but they're not playing him
Yeah.
100% all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're wanting him to get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. You look at Johnny Cardoso, he's fighting for his life on the national team. And he played a beautiful game, I thought, with Atlanta the other day, or Atletico, Madrid the other day. I was really impressed by him, but every time he steps on the pitch with the U.S. team, it's not there.
So I will say
think that's a cultural thing as well. And we look at a couple of the teams over the last national teams over the past couple of World Cup cycles. Remember, we had that team that was a lot of internationals that Jurgen Klinsmann brought in, and they weren't even putting their hand on their heart when the national anthem or singing the national anthem. They had nothing in common with America. And here they were playing for the U.S. national team. At least we've got players now that I believe they do want to play for the national team. And I believe Pochettino is bringing a better culture to this team and a fight that I think will do us well in the World Cup. I'm not saying we're going to go far. I don't know, because the World Cup anything could unfold, but I think you're going to see something pretty special out of them.
I agree to an extent, and the only reason I say that is that I'm going to go back to my previous example of 2002, 2006, whatever you want to do. With those groups, where did majority of those players play? What soil did they play on? They played on American.
Yeah.
And a lot of our players, I think we are going, overseas for a lot of our leagues. And of course, push yourself. I think that's great for us. But they're never here. They probably look at it as a burden to come over here at this point because they've established their life in their other country that they're currently performing in. So to an extent, I just don't understand why these guys can't perform. Do they truly just not care that much? I don't know.
It's a good question.
So I used to think that. And then I kind of started sitting back and saying, now, why wouldn't they want to play for the national team? Because I think that's the ultimate goal of every American, Brazilian, France player. They want to play for the national team or play in the World Cup, whether they want to play for their national team or not. They just want to play in a World Cup. So I think, and this is my opinion, obviously, and I'm in no way, shape, or form the greatest analyzer on the face of the earth or anything like that, but I truly think it is the players around the American players that are allowing the American players overseas to look like they are performing really, really well. So an example, if Pulisic is playing with, I don't know, name somebody else that's really, really good on AC Milan.
Leao.
Luka Modric.
Luka Modric or Rafael Leao. Those guys. If I pass them the ball, they're probably going to have a good first touch and probably going to put me into a position that's pretty perfect. If I play the ball to one of my national team players, there's a 50% chance that they're going to put the ball into an area that is going to set me up for something better. And so the confidence and I guess bottom line, it's not as difficult to play for a team that can pass a ball and trap a ball 100% of the time than it is when you're playing with a team that is 50 to 75% of the time. And so Weston McKennie can be awesome at Juventus,
Yeah.
but he's also playing with guys that are playing with the best World Cup teams in the world.
Yeah.
And so I can pass the ball to player A, which I know player A is going to take care of it and probably pass it to player B pretty well. And then player B is probably going to take care of it and pass it to C and D and E and F.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a chance at some point without a mistake. Right now, it's U.S. soccer. Pass it to A, pass it to B, pass it to C, and hope to God he doesn't lose it.
Yeah, it happens. I get it. Yeah, I get
And
it.
that's what you're mixing. So
Mhm.
MLS obviously isn't as good. They're getting better, but it's still a mix of foreign players, right? It's not all American players.
Right.
And so MLS is competing because of a mix of American and foreign players. But if you're playing Barcelona or AC Milan and you're playing their full squad in a 90-minute match and their starters are playing for something, I don't know that those MLS players are competing with AC Milan and Barcelona and damn Bayern Munich and PSG at this point. It's just
Oh,
not happening.
yeah. It's
So that our American players playing overseas are playing with players like that are spot on. And it's just it's hard. I would say for some of the better players that play for like AC Milan and Juventus and Atletico Madrid, it's more frustrating coming back here and playing with some of our U.S. players because they're just not capable of playing the way that they play with their club teams.
right. But you bring up a really good point. And if you look at our top players right now, you consider Balogun probably in the top 3 players on Monaco. Way up.
I think the better way I think the better way to analyze it, Dad, and I'm not trying to obviously dictate how you do it, but do like the top 5 players for the US and we'll say the top 5 players for France because most everybody knows France. So
Right.
compare Balogun to who?
To Mbappe.
Okay. Not even close.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So then you go to the
I
next
would
go to the next one.
disagree. And the reason I say that
Oh.
is because even though they're unique
Not even
players,
close.
wait a
Not
minute,
even close.
they're unique types of players. Mbappe relies on his speed.
He's pretty impressive overall.
He is, but
He's pretty good.
but when you see him knock a ball, 10, 12 yards out in front of him just because he knows he's going to outrun the defender, that's not a whole lot of skill. Then he gets it under control and he does finish nicely. I'm not talking about that. Balogun, though, has more of an overall dynamic about his ability to play with the ball, coming into his feet, and his ability to create runs that can give his midfielders an opportunity to put him through. I think Balogun's runs actually from the middle are much better than most of the goals that Mbappe scores when he's just toasting people. That's my point.
But I don't give a shit what runs.
Well, I don't disagree. I mean,
Balogun
Mbappe,
run. He doesn't score.
I would, as a defender, I would have absolutely loved to take on a forward like that. As a defender, I would have done.
Talking about Balogun or who?
No, Mbappe. If I saw that, if I saw a player like that, I'm just saying.
You're crazy.
I'm just saying, as that would have been my challenge, that I'm going to take that best player on, and he's not going to beat me.
Okay, so we'll take Balogun, compare him to Dembele.
But again, there's different types of players. You look at
So
what they're.
but he's not talking like a style of play. He's talking like from I don't know, like a star power. But
look at the age difference.
Going to get the job done, or is Dembele and Mbappe going to get the job done?
I think all 3 will. I think Balogun has proven that he can get the job done.
Well, one group has been in a World Cup final, and the other hasn't.
No,
even close.
I get that. No, these guys, our guys are still young. The one
So
guy
are
that I'm worried about is
Doué. We'll say Doué.
the one guy that I'm worried about is Pulisic, because if he doesn't do well this World Cup, it's probably his last. Because
One
he's
can hope.
too injury prone. He's too injury prone. He's just not going to last. There's going to be better players that overtake him. More physical players, bigger, stronger, faster.
Well, I think that's when you do start bringing in like Ajiman, Haji Wright, those type of guys. I think those are the guys that start filling in those wide positions.
Absolutely. They
Or
start making a
Bellingham
difference.
goes out
Yeah.
wide or something like that. And that might potentially bring a little bit more size and speed than what Pulisic
Yeah,
brings.
because
And I don't want to discredit Pulisic because I think he tries and he is been proven to lead the team in
wonderful.
more than one way.
Absolutely. I think he is truly Captain America. I believe Tyler Adams is starting to take that role over from, his captaincies, his overall presence on the field and the way he can destroy and break up things. But I wanted to go back a little bit as we were talking about Dembele and Mbappe, and think about the World Cup in 2022. You would have had Dest going up against Mbappe if that were the match. Literally, there's no possible way that Dest could have ever handled him. Dest has got this.
But that's the problem, though. We don't have a single player that can.
Well, but you take a player now like Freeman, who's bigger, stronger, fat, not necessarily as technical, but he can go toe to toe. He can go toe to toe with the physicality of an Mbappe or Dembele.
Do you think Weah or Freeman is better?
I believe Weah's a better player, but I believe Freeman would do a better job of defending an Mbappe or a Dembele.
Do you think Weah did a good job against Doku?
He started off doing a good job against Doku, and Doku elevated his game, and Weah was suspect. However, I believe Weah also learned a lot from that game about Doku, and because Weah is a very intelligent player.
Yeah, thank God he found out after the game.
Yeah,
because we sure could have used him during the game.
Yeah, don't disagree.
Yeah, we just and the only reason that I said try to compare, and France is obviously the best team in the world in my opinion. I mean they've got the best player in the world on their team, so I would say that is probably the team to beat in the World Cup. And the only reason I was comparing the U.S. like player for player is that we just don't have that. And we're not supposed to have that right now. We just don't. We haven't built that yet. We're not even close to that.
And Jason, we may never have that because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so we might not ever have that.
The United States has baseball, football, basketball, hockey,
right?
And you've got these monsters that, if they were to play football, soccer, would be unbelievable. I mean, take Deion Sanders. You put him on a soccer pitch and teach him how to play the game. Who could touch him?
Right.
He would be the Mbappe for the United States because nobody could run anywhere close to as fast as him. You put him on a breakaway and he finishes a goal. I mean,
that's the thing that I get really frustrated. Like when you hear a lot of these analysts and talk about how if we don't perform well, don't get to the quarterfinal, with it being on our home soil, it's an utter failure.
No,
I think making a World Cup at this point is a success because I think that's all we are. And I hate to say that. I think that I'm just a very harsh critic currently. And the only reason I am is because I see a game like Uruguay, you're like, oh, this gives us hope. And then we see two games to where you're like, oh,
they tanked it.
Makes sense.
They tanked it.
So like, I guess like from a perspective, because I am very passionate about like soccer specifically in this country. And when I see a national team perform the way they do, I get severely frustrated. Because I get tired of seeing the same things over and over again. I'm tired of seeing the same players get chance after chance when they don't perform well. And if that our pool is that small to where a player can play well one time and then play crappy for 4 games
Mhm.
straight and still be a part of that group,
Yep.
we have an issue.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, I am so reserved on like optimism for this national team. Like, getting out of the group would be like a massive success to me
Mhm.
because, in my opinion, I think Paraguay, Australia, and obviously Turkey are better than people are giving credit for.
Absolutely. They're going to be tough
I
teams.
actually think that this group is harder than our last World Cup
Yep. I don't
because
disagree.
I'm not Iran and who was the other?
England,
Wales,
Yeah.
Wales,
Wales and England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, should have been easily winnable games, and to where now I just don't see any evidence to suggest that we are close to reaching a semifinal of a World
Well,
Cup.
just remember that there is no easy World Cup game. Anything can happen, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, of course,
Yeah.
I get that,
And
but
Argentina's group's pretty easy.
yeah, it's probably the easiest group of all. But I want to say something here with respect to our culture again. If you look at the United States right now, and I'm not even going to give them their current rating. I think they're around 15 or 16, something like that. I'm going to say the United States is probably in the top 25 in the world in soccer. Top 25. Anybody beyond 25, we could probably beat
Yeah, I would
without
say.
any. We may lose a game here or there, but most likely anybody 26 and beyond, the United States should win the match.
If they play
That's
their players, yes, I
yeah.
would agree.
That's probably where we're going to stay, Jeremy. I don't know that we have the right people training our kids and developing our talent to be the Mbappes of the future. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at a Max Arfston, for example. He's a great kid. You know, he's got the ability to go up and down the field. You look at Jedi Robinson. He's able to go up and down the field, but they're not an Alex Freeman. Alex Freeman is probably a new breed of player for the United States. Now, he's not the most skilled player, don't get me wrong. I'm talking about the physical nature of that kid. You know, he comes from a professional football family. The boy knows and is being taught by his father what it takes to be an elite level athlete.
Yeah, I don't think he's bad at all.
Yeah. You know, my ability to coach the two of you, you know, I was able to help progress Jason along in his quest for a potential national pool spot. But I was never a professional athlete. You know, I was a good amateur athlete at best and had the desire and the passion to push you guys to that because I loved the sport. But just think if I would have been a professional footballer, if I would have already been there and I've already seen it and
Yeah, it
been
would have
part
been
of
different.
that,
Yeah.
there would have been a different culture and mindset that would have also transitioned to you,
For sure. Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I
Well,
think we're all about culture, and I think I think we may be at a plateau unless, as you said earlier, Jason, U.S. soccer is going to have to reinvent itself.
yeah, so it would, and I don't want to take Landon Donovan's thunder off his podcast or anything like that, but I kind of watched a little snippet of him and Tim Howard's podcast the other day, and he mentioned that it's all starts with USU soccer, and I couldn't 100% agree more with that because there is something that is happening um, from the ages of, we'll say, like the academies, like the young kids to U12. U13 to U16 is usually pretty decent, and then it gets to be the older kids, the 17s through college, um, that become a little bit less dedicated and a little bit less committed. Because if you look at like our national teams, the U, what we'll say, what's been our best results here? U23s.
Well, U17s did really well.
U20s,
U17s,
U17s.
U19s. Yeah.
So most of that is when they're approaching college. And so after college is where things start to become a little sketchy.
More demands
That's
on
where
their
our
life.
teams aren't as good.
Yeah, it's more demands on their life. They're looking at their future potential wives. They're looking at their job, potential jobs if soccer doesn't become available to
Well,
them at the next
s-
level.
s-
So there are a lot of demands
but
on
does
them.
it stem at the youth level because we have such a demand and a requirement on players, even starting at U10 for all the travel,
Mhm.
all the league games? It stacks up and it's almost a burnout point.
Yeah.
They're doing so much,
s-
and some players can take that, and I think those are the players that become national level players,
Yeah.
are the
Well,
ones that stay with it, are dedicated,
yeah.
and aren't burnout, quite frankly.
So here's what I would say, and then I know we're getting to the end of the podcast here, so I'll use this data as my final statement. In my opinion, as I've coached for several years, and I've been through a lot of the soccer rankings, if you are not having fun, you are not going to be interested in the game.
Mhm.
And so when I look at a U8, U9, or U10 team playing up because it's better competition and think that we're getting something out of that, I think is utterly a mistake. I think if you are playing up, you are trying to prove a point that you can accomplish something for the coach and for the club, not for the players. If I am a 8-year-old child and I have the option to play on a 9v9 field, but my little legs really struggle to get up and down the field, why am I playing 9v9 just to play 9v9?
Mhm.
Why would you not want to allow kids to develop as they will develop? Let them have fun at the younger ages. Let them win games 6-0 if they want to, because that's what they want to do. Not every game is going to be 6-0. I guarantee it. There's going to be some games that are, and those are probably the more fun games that the kids are going to play at that age. They like scoring goals, and if they win 6-0, that it is what it is. But playing up where they are having to fight and having to dig and having to have the coach yell at them because they're not doing something special against kids that are bigger and faster and older and more mature than them is not fun to kids.
Yeah.
If you're getting your asses kicked 4 and 5-0 every game because your coach or your club has decided to play your team up a division or up an age group or whatever it might be, kids are going to lose interest,
Mhm.
plain and simple. They are
Yeah.
not there to use this as a job, especially as a 9-year-old child. They can care less if it's a good game or not. They want to go out there and have fun with their friends. They want to run around and be successful. They want to score goals. They want to have time to cross the ball and have time to do things that actually is probably more meaningful than playing kids that are just better than them or
Mhm.
older than them. And instead, everything they do is a fight. So if I dribble, I got to worry about a kid that's older than me running up my butt and knocking me off the ball. Instead of I'm able to take 2 or 3 touches, I can make a nice quality pass because I have a little bit more time. The ball is crossed to me, or I can hit a cross with a little bit less pressure. I can build my own development through my own age group because that is where I am at. I am not forced to play up. I am not forced to do things that, quite frankly, I don't want to do. Like I don't have an option because my coach is making me do this.
Mhm.
And they're just losing it. They're not playing up. There is nothing that says playing up is benefiting kids in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
Nothing.
Yeah, your
And
job
coach,
your job at the youngest ages is to capture their interest first.
That's true. That makes a great
they
point.
they are not going to learn anything new if they are being pressured every time they get the ball. So what happens if a player gets the ball and every single time they lose it?
I have to
How are
ask.
they learning anything?
I
They're
have to
not
ask
learning
you a
anything.
question though. We played you up.
It didn't do anything.
Different time.
Yeah, but it didn't do anything. It did nothing because I was at that level.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you were truly at that level. You were able to
Yeah, I
play
was at
at
that
that
level.
level. Yeah. So
It
if you've
wasn't much
got a
different.
kid that's capable of playing at that level, you put him there. But a whole
But
team,
there's not
it's
that. But
impossible
you
to
got to
do.
understand. I was one of the top 50 kids in the nation.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky enough to have a kid that was on the top 50 in the nation, well then yeah, they should play up.
Yeah.
But they also
Yeah.
should be now playing with MLS Next Academies and
Exactly.
ECNL.
Which goes right back to what we talked about. We need to rebuild, rethink soccer at the club level. And when you get those players that are of that caliber or capable of being developed into that next caliber, you got to get them there.
Right.
You got to let
And they
them.
can
You got to let them go off your club team.
and they can stay there for a year or two, and if they don't make it or they don't like it, they can come back. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just.
So
But yes, I agree.
that's a great transition point to close this out. So I'll let you give maybe 20-second little clip snippet of wrapping up what we think about culture, and maybe we continue this discussion next podcast. Jeremy?
Oh, you kind of put me on the spot here. I wasn't ready for it, but that's all right.
Well, yeah, that's what
Um,
this is all about.
no, I know, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
No, again, just to recap on the culture, it is all a mindset. Come in with an open mind, especially, as I mentioned, tryouts are probably coming up for many teams, many clubs, in the next few weeks, and it's a stressful time. So keeping an open mind, not only on just the ability of the team that you may be joining, but creating an environment, and every single individual player has a part in creating that environment. But it's not just what you can bring as a soccer player. It's what you can bring as a personality to the team, having that positive attitude and having also that personality trait of demanding more out of your players without being, cutting them down or whatever it may be. Is just as important. So again, create a culture that you want to be coached in is the kind of my quote of the day. You're responsible for not just yourself, but all the other players as well.
Yep. Very good. Jason?
No, not a whole lot. I just want to everyone listening, from the bottom of our heart, we truly, truly thank you for listening. This is certainly a work in progress, and all of the things we're saying, some might be factual, but it is mainly our opinions because we want to see the culture of not just our soccer teams, but of our U.S. national team, U.S. youth soccer. We want to see things change. We want to get better. We've been doing this for a long time, and not a whole lot has changed. In fact, we can arguably say that things might be getting worse for U.S. youth soccer and the U.S. national team. It certainly isn't because people aren't interested in the sport. It's just I think we are stale in what we're doing, and a reinvention is probably what the next step is in the U.S. soccer process. Who is that reinvents the wheel? I don't know. Will it ever happen? I don't know. But something has got to change, and this is why we do these podcasts, because we want to hear everybody else's opinion, and we want to provide you our opinions as well, so we can all come together and make U.S. soccer better.
Right. And the reason that I like this is because you guys are now entrenched in coaching youth club, and yet you're still fans. You're still watching the games. You're still students of the game. You still try to find ways to do better things and truly enjoy soccer, especially our U.S. men's national team and our U.S. women's national teams when they play. And I would say that you look at our two generations and you're identifying significant things of the generation of kids you're coaching versus the generation that I played in. and then tried to transition to you guys, I'm going to say if we don't get back to the way of my thinking, then U.S. soccer will stay one of the top 25 teams in the world, and that's where we'll be, and nothing will change. We won't reinvent ourselves, because culture is everything when you look at a team. It's got to be the heart and soul of that team. Every player wanting to walk on the pitch, fight for his brother or his or their sister, and win the match. That's what it's all about. And if we've got guys that are coming on there just saying, "Hey, I'm not going to play because I'm going to risk, if I play hard, I'm going to risk injury," then we don't want you there. And I'm hoping that Pochettino has brought that to the U.S. men's national team, and that we're going to see something fun to watch at this coming World Cup. And I'll leave it at that.
And the final note that I want to say, and it's going to start at the top for the leadership of U.S. soccer in general. Everybody's got to buy into what they think that can improve soccer in this country. We can't have people coming in here, and I hate to say this, but outsiders that haven't experienced it from a parent, a player, and a coaching perspective and expect some change. Those people have got to buy into a system that is going to work for our youth, because that's where it all starts for success at our national team.
Yep.
So
that
all I got.
sounds good. Maybe we'll bring this up. We didn't get to our other two topics, which is okay. Other than that, I say that we close out this episode, and we'll see you next time on Tack Talks Futbol.